Pizana
and Co.
Welcome to
Second-Hand Haunting,
where we read stories from a second-hand book my mum found in a second-hand shop and try and make sense of them.
Fun of them.
Sense of them.
Fun of them.
Sense of them.
Fun.
Do you think we need to record a little warning for the start of this episode about child murder?
No.
Okay.
It's a ghost podcast.
Hey, Ollie.
Hey, Callum.
What do you say we finish off our Tombstone trilogy this week?
Oh, I'd love to do that.
Yeah, because we've got one more story from the little old town of Tombstone, Arizona, from the book Ghost Stories of the Old West by Dan Asfar.
Do you think it's kind of dark that they called the town Tombstone?
Yeah, well, the explanation of why it's called Tombstone is in the book.
Right.
Dan writes it way better than I could ever attempt to. But basically, some guy was like, I'm going to go make a town out there. And all of his friends said, yeah, well, it'll be your death. So he went out there and founded the town and just obstinately called it Tombstone. They have a sense of humour sometimes.
Yeah, sure. It only just occurred to me as we were talking about it. I was like, oh, that's kind of dark in itself, isn't it?
It sure was. Intentionally so. Right from the very beginning. And then it got worse.
And the town still exists, right?
Yeah, but it's a shadow of its former self.
Do you ever see there was like a show called Dark Tourism?
That sounds horrific.
I'm not sure if I'm getting the name of the show right, but essentially it was like about someone that was going to do like tourism in a place where horrific murders had happened or horrific events had happened.
Okay.
Yeah. Like a ghost tour of the world, you know.
That's probably the lightest version of the show that a show called Dark Tourism could be. I'm actually kind of interested, but only kind of.
Well, I can't advertise it, and I'm not even sure if I'm getting the name right. So let's move right
on,
along. Yeah.
For today's story is called Murder on Skyline Drive. The Haunting on Skyline Drive is one of the lesser-known ghost stories in Tombstone's heavily chronicled past. While thousands of tourists and curiosity seekers flock to famous haunted sites such as Big Nose Kate's Saloon and the Birdcage every year, the haunted house on Skyline Drive gets very little attention.
Poor house.
Yeah. Now, I want to know a lot more about Big Nose Kate's Saloon, but it's not included in this book as one of the haunted places in Tombstone, which is endlessly frustrating.
Well, we do know that the Birdcage Saloon, is that what that was called?
Yeah, the Birdcage Theatre.
Ah, sorry, that's right. Where they put women in actual bird cages.
Also, we thought.
Also, we thought?
Yeah, well, I don't remember how much of that I left in.
Right. Well, I remember because we had looked at photos of the theatre and we couldn't find any photos with an actual bird cage in the shots.
No.
But it was theorized that a bird cage should be hung from the ceiling with a woman in it. Yeah, so...
Hardly the darkest thing to have happened in that particular theatre.
Yeah.
See our episode on the Birdcage Theatre for more.
They probably thought it was a fun thing to do at the time, you know?
It probably was.
Yeah. Didn't even consider it to be dark or ill-conceived.
No. Perfectly...
Of the time.
Yes. That is just as well as far as the current owners of the home are concerned, for they are none too eager to sacrifice their privacy for the sake of putting another haunted location on Tombstone's supernatural register.
I don't even like people coming through my house, you know, for an inspection. Like,
For official reasons.
Yeah, that's right. I don't like the idea of someone coming in, you know, if they need to do renovations to the house.
Mm-hmm.
At the moment, we're doing renovations on our house and we have to leave the door open for the construction workers to use the bathroom.
Very reasonable until they build their own out there.
They actually made quite a mess of it. Like, I'm not going to go into details.
Oh, dude!
But I'm going to say it's an extra thing to clean. That's all I'm going to say. It's an extra thing to clean.
Yeah. So imagine if you had those guys coming into your house and they're also poking about with night vision cameras and goggles and spirit boxes and all that nonsense.
Maybe they're just those type of people, like to have people around.
Oh, no, they're not.
Sorry, okay, maybe I'm confused. What's happening?
So this house is haunted,
okay,
but not publicly, right? The people who live in the house don't want people coming and having a look through their house.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's probably why it's less popular.
Yeah, very much so. Also, does that mean we can take what they say as slightly more truthful because they're not trying to make money from the situation?
I mean, does it also mean that if people are investigating, they're actually breaking into somebody's house?
Yeah.
That can't be right.
Well, correct. That's very wrong. That's why it's against the law.
Right, okay.
I guess the story's known somehow,
Okay.
but
Anyway,
we'll find
all
out how.
Methods aside. Look, the credibility of, someone being truthful about the story when they genuinely don't want people hassling them does sound more credible, but I guess I'll leave that up to the listener. It could be an instance of people pretending that they don't want people to be interested in so they could gain interest. It's hard to gauge.
Maybe a little bit, yeah. But there is someone in this story who seems to want some publicity. Do you remember Angel Brandt from the Birdcage Theatre episode?
No.
She was the psychic who came into the theatre with her friend and smelt the cigar smoke and went to the backstage area and saw like a spooky presence push their male accompaniment out of the way.
Remember the story, didn't remember the name. Love the character though.
Well, it's a real person.
So what was her name again?
Angel Brandt.
Man, I feel like I remember her better if she had like a Madame something name.
Madame Angel Brandt.
Madame Angel Brandt.
Maybe.
Madame Angel.
What? Angel doesn't... Is that too common a name?
Oh, well, I mean, I have to remember with everything else. Can we just call her Angel?
We can call her
like
Angel.
the TV show Angel?
Oh, Christ, no.
Didn't like that one. So Madame Angel, she smelt the cigar smoke.
Yeah.
Okay. And what's she doing in this episode? Up to her psychic tactics once again.
Yes, she is. And I think she's the reason we know anything about this particular haunting in this particular house. Thus, Angel Brandt is a little bit guarded when she talks about the stately old house up on the hill on Skyline Drive. Quote, "Most of us can only imagine what it would take to live in a place so actively haunted by the spirits of the dead," Angel says. Never mind putting up with the widespread attention that this sort of thing brings on. So even though Angel is more than willing to talk about her ongoing investigation of this home, all she will reveal about its location is the street that it lies on.
Well, that's nice of her.
Yeah.
Protecting the innocent.
Yeah, or just jealously hogging it from any other psychic investigators around town.
I guess that's another way of looking at it.
Like when she goes down to the pub, hangs around with all of her other psychic friends and be like, "Angel, what's the address? What are you investigating?" She's like, I'm not saying. If you buy me enough drinks, I might tell you.
So, could she have just made this place up then? Like, we do know it's a real place.
She sure could have just made all this up.
Okay, so there's no... We have no factual evidence to this place ever actually existing.
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
Oh, well. Well, that being said, I'm not sure if we've been providing hard evidence for any of our stories.
No, not really.
So we're not exactly breaking character here.
No, but we are at least going to get some history of this house that absolutely very definitely does exist.
Okay.
Back in the 1880s, one of Tombstone's wealthiest assayers used to live in this house, Angel says. Mm-hmm. This was the man that the miners would come to with the ore they dug up in exchange for pay. Very little information survives on this assayer. It is known that he lived in the house with his wife and his daughter, and that he supervised a few of the mining operations around town. But Angel has found no written record of his name or his background.
So we're talking about a house that may or may not exist.
And the people who may or may not have ever lived there.
With no supporting evidence of what they did in life.
Correct.
Okay.
No.
Spooky.
Yeah. He's a ghost. All she knows about him is what she's been able to gather during her psychic investigations. I keep getting an impression of the name Cliverson, Angel says. I'm pretty sure that was this assayer's family name. I looked up any names that I could find anywhere by the name Cliverson in Tombstone, Arizona, America. Frankly, anywhere in the world, it does not seem to be a name. Cliverson. Look, I'm not an archivist or a researcher or a journalist.
I do like the name of the profession archivist.
Yeah?
Yeah. I can only imagine an archivist would be, a character out of that warehouse in Indiana Jones. Like,
yes.
Someone that's locking away.
Yeah, that guy who was trundling down the Ark of the Covenant in a massive warehouse.
Yeah.
His position probably would have had archivist in there somewhere.
Sure. Like archaeology, archivist. I mean, I'm not sure if they're related, but...
Oh, hang on. Were you making a pun about the Ark of the Covenant?
I wasn't until this very moment.
Okay.
But that's a good point. That's a good pun. That's punny.
No, it's not.
Oh,
It's terrible.
Do you think that's where the word came from? That's crazy.
Probably.
Or
Not
maybe
from-
it's sane.
Not from the Ark of the Covenant itself, but Ark meaning a repository of something. It would
That
be
makes
probably
sense, right? Like, yeah, like the like Noah's Ark was a way.
a way to save every species.
I wonder what the original word arc means. Am I just
Get it?
down?
No, get off that Google. It means curve, and we're done here.
It does, but like, there's two different meanings. For
Yeah,
it,
there is.
right?
I'm being a shit.
Okay, like,
Okay, so if we have any etymologists in the audience, can you please send us an email at secondhandhaunt@gmail.com to either confirm or deny.
also a great profession to have if you're at a party, right? What do? Etymologist.
Wait, hang on. Is etymologist the one for words, or is that the one for insects? No, entomologist is for insects. Get away from that, Google.
All right.
Sometime in the 1800s, Mr. Cliverson fired a man named John Hicks, who worked in one of his mines. Angel can't say for certain why Hicks was fired, but given what followed, it's apparent that the miner wasn't at all happy about it. A few days later, an angry and inebriated John Hicks came knocking on Cliverson's door, looking for money he felt he was owed.
Look, I find that I'm often not happy about being let go from a position.
Yeah, that's fair. Do you normally get drunk and then go to assault your former employer, though?
Yeah, times have changed, haven't they?
Also, anyway, is
That behaviour is
Cliverson-
just not acceptable these days.
No, I don't think it was acceptable in those days either, frankly.
I think you could come back from it more. There wasn't, the same sort of level of social media as there is today, or tracking, right? Like, I feel like
There's still town records
yeah,
presided over by an archivist.
yeah, but I mean, like, you could potentially move town, and people might not remember like what happened. You
That's
just,
true.
Just don't list that person as a reference,
Change town, change your name, new person.
Yeah. I mean, like, these days you could that might just like appear on LinkedIn. Maybe.
I also have issue with the fact that Mr. Cliverson, like a paragraph ago, was a guy who used to test minerals for the mines, and now he apparently owns one of the mines. Possibly multiple of them. So I'm going to take this all with a grain of salt.
Okay. Well, history is written by the victors.
History is written by the angry and inebriated.
Sorry, I
Murderers.
misunderstood. So the guy that drunkenly got inebriated and knocked on the door, he owns mines now.
No.
Okay.
No, Cliverson owns the mines.
That's what I was saying, right. So but that's what I was like, history is written by the victors, so history is written by the guy that owns the mine. So he can paint the fired person in any light that he wants to, right?
History in this context is written by Angel Brunt, who's given two varying descriptions of what exactly Mr. Cliverson's job was.
Oh, that's true. I completely forgot that we didn't have any evidence to back up anything. That's right.
Well, Cliverson wasn't home, Angel says, but his wife and 8-year-old daughter were. Mrs. Cliverson opened the door and found herself looking into the eyes of a man lost to fury. Hicks kicked the door open and sauntered inside, roaring about just desserts and money that was owed him. Terrified, Mrs. Cliverson tried telling the drunk miner that her husband wasn't there, that he was out working at one of his mines, but her words were meaningless to him. The man was beyond reason. In a fit of homicidal madness, Hicks exacted his inhuman vengeance, assaulting Mrs. Cliverson and stabbing her to death. Just as he was leaving, he turned to see the Cliverson's daughter, staring at her mother in mortal fear. Hicks turned his knife on the 8-year-old, and then he was gone. Do you think we need to record a little warning for the start of this episode about child murder?
No.
Okay.
It's a ghost podcast.
I don't think we've murdered children before, though, have we?
I think the first couple of episodes that we had were more horrific than anything we've brought up since.
Yeah, good point. We're just returning to form.
Really? Well, I mean, In a way, that was actually that was quick and probably painless, but it was you know, we've gone into much greater detail.
Yeah.
So look, some people died. No one listens to a podcast about ghosts without, you know, expecting some ghosts and potentially some child ghosts.
Yeah. Well, you've hit the nail on the head because it is the child that becomes a ghost here.
Do you know what? I think it's surprising that we haven't had more child ghosts up until now, really.
I think I
It's the
tried
creepiest thing in the ghost world, isn't it?
I think I tried to avoid them generally.
Right.
Because it's just a bit of a downer when babies die. But I've got a few lined up.
Sure.
If you want more.
Look, you go with your gut.
Okay. The strange goings-on in the house today find their roots in this horrific sequence of events that took place over 100 years ago. I felt vibrations of the little girl, Angel says. I felt her presence while sitting on the front porch. I could feel her fear and the pain of being stabbed. But that's only what Angel had divined during her psychic investigations. Another far more dramatic phenomenon occurs on the front deck. Angel describes her experience sitting on the porch with a trace of awe in her voice. The porch, it rains slag, little fragments of rock. They come out of the overhang and shower all over the patio floor. They form on the walls and on the steps. What the fuck? It just rains rocks in this place.
Okay.
Apparently that's a haunting.
What's slag?
Just little fragments of rock.
Sure.
Generally like mine runoff.
Okay.
Once you've removed the gold from gold ore, slag is just the other bits of rock that were in there.
Right, okay.
Or
It sounds,
silver in this case.
it just sounds like a liquidy sort of name, you know? Like I'm imagining slag as kind of like, I don't know, like water mixed with mud, but little bits of rock. That's cool. Learn something new every day.
I don't know enough about metallurgy to say if it can be liquid or not. I do believe that when you're processing ore, you do heat it, and it's possible that there is molten rock involved in the process. I don't know.
Oh, look, I genuinely hope someone tries to correct us.
Yes, again, secondhandhaunt@gmail.com, links in the description. Angel believes the little girl is responsible for this bizarre occurrence. I think that this is the girl's way of keeping men away. I didn't put this together before, but that's 2 stories in which Angel Brandt is involved that involve ghosts keeping men away. And I think maybe Angel needs to examine some stuff in her own life first before inserting herself into others.
Open up your heart, Madame Angel. There is love out there for you.
Or see a therapist, you know, either's fine.
I mean, I guess that was a bit close-minded of me. Like, that love could come... It doesn't have to be...
No, it's fine. You leave it.
Okay.
I'm quite happy with that. Because by the time I saw it happen, the slag rained all around me, but I didn't feel any of it. What I did feel was her being stabbed violently. I got a real impression of this poor girl's fear. So there's Angel, on the porch of someone else's house. Rocks raining around her, and she feels like she's being stabbed.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any questions before we dive into the next bit?
Oh, about the little girl getting slagged and... sorry.
Slagged!
And or stabbed? No. I do not. No, I got the general gist of what's happening. Thank you.
Okay, cool. According to Angel, this falling slag is the girl's defense mechanism against males she doesn't know. More than one male visitor to the house has been welcomed with a fine mist of falling slag.
See? Males she doesn't know.
Males she do know, totally fine.
So if you get through the slag...
Given that she's a girl from 100 years ago, literally every man is a man she doesn't know, right?
I wondered about that myself, actually, but then I justified it by thinking to myself that, you know, she gets to know people from just reoccurring visits.
Okay.
So
assuming they come by more than once after being rained on by rocks.
Exactly. So maybe she gets to know them from generally being around, you know.
Okay.
That's my assumption. I'm sticking with that. You might need to make a bit of an effort to come around and get through the slag.
What is this, an anime?
Could be. Sounds like an idea to me.
Oh, Christ.
If anyone wants to make an anime out of this, please do.
Probably already is, to be honest.
Madame Angel's anime
stop
series.
It. No, we can't. We cannot. Why the front porch? That's not my question, that's the book.
Right, I was going to say, such an old question. Why the front porch?
Yeah, the age-old questions. Who are we? Why are we here? Why the front porch?
I feel like front porches are such an old-fashioned idea. Look, something that I've just thought of myself is that I see houses around with front porches all the time. Mm-hmm. I very rarely see people actually out on the front porch.
Yeah, that's true.
Do you use your front porch?
When the weather's nice, yes.
Okay,
yes.
All right.
Sometimes Amber and I will put a stake in the ground, tie Percy up on the front lawn, let him roam around out there. We'll sit on the chairs and tables you see out there and have a cocktail and play a game of backgammon or something.
Well, look, that sounds lovely.
Yeah.
I guess I'm just too much of a private person to be out on my front porch, with the world to see me. I always thought of that front porches came from more closed-off communities when the house was deep in the forest.
In a forest?
When there's more distance between the houses, when people aren't constantly walking past your house, I don't like the idea of being on show.
Well, I guess that's just the difference between an introvert and an extrovert, really, and also nice weather and not so nice weather.
Is that the measure of an extrovert? Just wants to be out,
as opposed to the two of us who will only have a podcast in our own living rooms and don't go anywhere else. Aside from the monthly podcast drinks run by P Zinner Network. Hit us up if you want to join us. All are welcome.
Is that so?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that. I didn't know it was like an everyone.
Yeah, I mean, look, generally we'd want some sort of shared interest like podcasting.
Right, okay. But you don't have to be part of a show.
No.
Okay, so it's just the monthly?
Yeah, we try and do monthly.
Yeah, so it's a monthly event where everyone can come along and just have a good time.
Yeah, have some drinks, have a chat, say hi. Network, all that good stuff.
Network group,
Yeah.
Okay. So if you have an interest in podcast or podcasting at all,
yeah, flick us an email and we'll invite you to the next one.
Come along. Yeah. No, it sounds like fun.
So why the front porch?
Why the front porch? So my question was, why even have a front porch? Obviously,
Yes.
that was my.
I'm serious existential questions about why front porches exist.
Exactly. Yeah. The only reason why I think the front porch is beneficial at the place where I'm currently living is because it can keep the rain off the window that looks out to the front porch, which means that you can open it up while it's raining and you can get this nice effect without actually having rain go into the window.
Yes, less a front porch, more of a extremely large eave.
That's right. I love it for that reason. I just don't think it's as socially acceptable as maybe it was in the yesteryear. Although, to be fair, I'm starting to realise that when I grew up is now retro.
Yeah.
I was watching a TV show today where they were using the same filter that they used to use to look back on the 60s to look at the 90s.
It's horrifying, isn't it?
And I was like, oh my God. It just all sunk in, Anyway.
So why the front porch?
Why the front porch?
In all probability, the raining rock phenomenon used to occur inside the house, before previous owners' renovations turned the living room into the porch. So if you had architectural questions about porches before, I have them now.
Okay.
These people removed a living room and turned it into a porch.
It's a hell of a porch. You have to call it something bigger. Sorry, you have to call it a different name when it's that big. I think a porch suggests a certain size.
Yeah.
Am I wrong?
I would think a porch is like something that runs around the house, but is generally rather thin.
I've always thought of a porch as particularly out the front, but I haven't looked into the official definition of porch.
Yeah, fair enough. Whereas these people have turned an entire living room into not just a sunroom and opened it up to the light. They've gone one step further and removed the windows too and just opened it up to the world.
Surely it needs a different name. Surely it can't be a porch when it's that big.
I agree, but I don't know what the name would be.
Yeah, cool. Well, look, We can merely speculate. I like the idea of like a sunroom. I always think of a sunroom as like it's still enclosed, but like one of the walls is all glass.
Yeah.
Hence sun getting into the room.
Yeah. Whereas they're just going, nah, just remove it all. Give us the dust. Give us the falling rock so we'll take it all inside, please.
Ah, the slag.
Outside?
It's slag room.
This house is confusing for a number of reasons.
I did live in a place where we had kind of like an outside room and it had, I'm not sure what you call them, but kind of like waterproof curtains that you can bring down.
Like an awning.
Yeah, like a balcony, but then if you bring them down, it kind of converts it into a room.
Yeah. I wonder if that's what they've done here.
Oh, you'd want to hope. Otherwise, like, it's not usable all
It's just strange.
all round the year.
How big is the rest of the house that they can sacrifice an entire living room? Anyway, enough about the front porch. While no one will ever know what motivated these renovations, we might imagine how difficult it must have been to be constantly cleaning slag off the living room floor.
Slag room.
Slag room.
Yeah, it's the slag room. Constantly cleaning out the slag. So they've really set themselves up for slag.
Yeah. Well, that's what it posits. Could it be that the residents of the house made the living room into a porch to keep the mysterious rock from collecting inside?
I would have thought the walls might have kept it out.
No, it's raining inside the room.
Oh, right. So our ghost rains slag inside. Right.
Yeah.
Okay, finally it all ties together. I thought that, when I envisioned the slag raining down upon these men, I was thinking of them on an actual porch or outside.
Yeah, you think like rain on a hot tin roof.
No, right? They're like at the front door or something. Like it's like they get like a hail of slag before they get into the house. I didn't imagine for a second that slag would magically fall out of the ceiling.
Right.
So that's a ghostly phenomenon right there.
Yeah, it's already strange enough if it was rocks raining from the sky. Rocks raining from the ceiling and walls, on the other hand,
that's a very different thing, yeah.
Altogether different.
Yeah, that's much more magical.
Yeah. Much more annoying, too, I think.
Well, there's definitely something different. It's a lot hard to explain, that's for sure.
Yes.
I mean, I feel like slag raining from the ceiling is not unlike blood starting to drip from the walls, right? It's like, you get it. You're like, oh, right, so it's a ghost.
Yeah. Assuming the slag, the porch, the living room, the house, the ghost, the haunting, all exists as Angel is relating it to us.
Right.
Because this could all just be bullshit.
I believe Angel, Madame Angel.
Yeah. I saw that look. I think if someone's house was raining rocks inside, we would know about it as a thing.
Yeah, you're right. Looks don't translate well on podcasts, do they? I did give Callum a look as though maybe I don't believe Madame Angel. Look, I think I'm just going to go with it's just going to be a good story. Like, I don't think this is an episode where we can talk about whether we believe it happened or not at the end, because we have got absolutely no basis for anything. Like, for instance, with the theatre, the Birdcage Theatre, like, you can look up the Birdcage Theatre. They actually made it into, like, an homage to the ghosts that would actually...
it's a sort of combination haunted house... museum.
Yeah, that's right. I was trying to think of the name for what a combination of a haunted house and museum is, but it's definitely that.
Tourist trap.
So you can look it up. There's potentially collaborating stories around what may or may not have happened at the Birdcage Theatre. But in this particular story, this is like a thing that happened to a friend of a friend of a friend of mine. You know, like
I swear, and I'm not telling you where.
Yeah, I'm not going to tell you where. I'm not going to tell you how I know, but... Oh, no, sorry. She does tell us how she knows. She had a feeling and a premonition.
Yep.
Yeah. But, so anyway, I digress. Madame Angel.
Or perhaps they had hoped that whatever force was haunting the room would depart when the room was turned into an outdoor area.
That's high apple pie in the sky hopes.
Yeah. It's desperate, if nothing else. Or they're just outdoorsy people. They very well might have known that the girl and her mother were killed in the living room, and could have come to the conclusion that the ghost of one of the two was responsible for the phenomenon. If so, they would quickly learn that all they solved with the renovations was their cleaning problem.
That's something.
Yeah.
I, honest to God, would happily do house renovations in favour of a cleaning solution.
Do you think they tried an exorcism first?
Or they just went straight to renovations?
Yeah.
Do you think we could find exorcists if we looked them up on Google? I'm not suggesting we should. I'm asking you just speculate. How hard is it to get an exorcist? You know,
Ollie, I'm writing this down as a potential bonus episode idea.
I'm not sure if I'd feel comfortable bringing an exorcist onto this show with you.
I play my
I feel like I could interview someone like on this show as an exorcist just for fun to like hear their perspective, but I'm just not sure how you'd go with it.
No, I can behave.
Can you though?
No.
I'm just expecting like a barrage of skepticism. That being said, like I'm sure that exorcists would have some experience with skepticism.
They would have to. Surely?
That would be another interesting profession to bring up at a dinner party.
I think that they would have more experience with skepticism than they have experience with ghosts, but that's just me.
Ha 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 ha. And this is definitely my point.
For the spirit of the girl continues to rain down slag on the same part of the house where she met her end. Continuing on, perhaps, for as long as her ghost continues to relive the last brutal moments of her short life. The end. So, what do we think about rocks raining from inside the house?
If I experienced rocks raining from the roof in the house, if we had someone that had witnessed rocks raining from the roof in the house, I would be very excited about...
to go have a look at the boulders in the ceiling.
Sure. But also, I think that it would be one of those stories where you could say with a degree of certainty that it was something that actually had happened. Well, if you had good witnesses. I mean, obviously, I can see how lots of people would still be skeptics, even if we had evidence from like a couple hundred years ago, for instance. But because like evidence from a couple hundred years ago is always just testimony.
Yeah.
But let's just say...
But these days, presumably, those rocks are still raining inside that house.
Yeah. So if we had witnesses that said that they saw rocks raining from the roof, that'd be a really interesting story to actually hear it only from this one psychic.
Yeah.
Just seems like a fun story.
Who does seem to be trying to poke her nose into all of the haunted attractions around Tombstone.
Hell of a story, though, right? Like,
I'll give it to her. It's unique.
Yeah, it's a unique story. Quite like the uniqueness around it because we're talking about something I've actually never heard of before. I think it's hard to find unique things in this world these days. You know, I think it's something that we often forget is the challenge of creativity in a world with so many people and ideas. Because even in my lifespan, the population has gone from something like,
3 to 7 billion.
Yeah, that's right. I think it's maybe 8 billion.
Yeah,
but 3 to 8 billion. And I've often joked that people of means a couple of hundred years ago seem to often have like multiple professions.
And yeah, like Mr. Cliverson, who owned the mines and assessed the mines.
Exactly, sure. But I feel like there was like less competition to do more things. These days, I think it's more difficult to come up with more like original ideas because you're competing with a much greater population.
And when you're talking stuff like ghost stories, the good ideas have been taken. They're going to come up with rocks in the living room.
This might be a natural little plug, but yeah, it reminded me of that podcast, Everyday Conspiracies, which I love. I think it's a really unique idea and name, and to come up with something unique in today's landscape, I think is a real achievement.
Yeah. So do you want to try and find an MVP for this week's episode as well? Are you going with Angel Brandt for making up the particularly unique haunting?
I think the MVP has got to be the ghost. Is the young girl coming up with the creative idea of using slag to deter males that she doesn't know.
Okay.
Now, one may assume that Angel may have come up with that idea, but I'm going to assume that
technically, the idea to rain rocks from the ceiling is the ghost's idea in the story. So, yeah.
I'm going to assume that it's the ghost story without being able to prove or disprove Madame Angel. So I'm going to say it was the ghost's idea, and I'm going to say that it was an incredibly original, great idea. Don't know where she came up with it, but loved it. Loved it. And even if it was like a slight mist, even if it was like hard to see,
Yeah.
I still think that would be incredibly impressive. As a ghost ability, marks for uniqueness and for forcing the household to renovate the house as well.
Well, that's my pick for this episode. Construction worker they got in to renovate this house, who they have somehow convinced to turn a lounge room into a porch. And he's like, sure, whatever, let's do it. You're paying me yet? Cool.
Do you think...
They mustn't have been able to get a male construction worker there either,
I was
right?
just about to say that. Beat me to the punch.
Huh.
Well, I mean, I think they could, but I'm just wondering whether or not the male construction workers on the site were just constantly getting misted or having slag fall on them while they were doing their job.
I guess if you're wearing
Do you get
a hard
danger
hat,
pay for that? Slag pay?
yeah, you might get 2 tuppence.
It reminds me of a friend that told me a story about how they were working with another colleague that was essentially a bit of a bully towards them.
Right.
And they told me that they were chatting to their boss about it, and they said that they thought they deserved danger pay.
Jesus.
Just for working with someone that was incredibly difficult to work for. I'm being intentionally vague with all those details.
Now, I don't know how much time we've got today.
Sure.
I'm happy to skip this if we don't have time.
Okay.
But we do know what street this house is on.
We do.
And we do know that their front living room was turned into a porch.
Did you find the house?
Which should look pretty obvious, right?
Did you Google Maps this?
I did Google Maps this.
Did you find the house?
No.
Oh.
Skyline...
How anticlimactical of you.
Skyline Drive
Okay.
in Tombstone, Arizona
Yep.
is not a big road.
Okay.
There's like 6 houses on it.
All right.
None of them fit the description. But do you want to look it up?
Did you take a street view scroll along, did you?
I did.
Yep.
This was a long time ago, though. This is when I was first reading the book. So
Can you tell me the street?
it was Skyline Drive,
Skyline Drive, Arizona.
Tombstone, Arizona. I've got a South Skyline Drive. Is that the one I'm thinking of?
The one that I'm looking at does
Skyline
look
Road.
a bit bigger.
Mm.
I've got Skyline Crescent, though.
Yeah, South Skyline Circuit, Skyline
Yeah.
Road. I guess maybe some of these have changed. But also, if you zoom in a bit, there's like, 6, 10 houses?
This is the type of places where I was saying a porch would be really appropriate.
Yeah, but your neighbours are a fair way away.
Exactly.
Oh god, the Tombstone Senior Citizens Centre is just around the corner.
I mean, I've got a porch. It's fairly big. I'm not sure if it's living room size.
What do you got there? I'm coming to have a look at the big screen.
Okay.
Alright. None of those houses seem to match the description, do they?
No, but I will say one thing, and that it'd be hard to knock this off in one
quick Google Maps.
One quick Google Maps. Yeah. That's right. But it's fascinating. I'm fascinated by the houses and stuff. A few places look new.
Hey, you know what? We could throw this out to the audience again. If anyone out there has found this particular house on Skyline Drive in Tombstone, Arizona, please let us know at secondhandhaunt@gmail.com, and we'll feature your response and put a link up to this poor private residence.
That's right. People do the legwork for us.
Yeah. Well, look, we can't find it, but maybe someone can.
I can tell you one thing. It's a country lifestyle.
Yeah. I don't think I'd want to live there. I don't think there's enough to do. I think I'd go mad and start making up stories about raining rocks in living rooms.
It does remind me about how, like, when you get out into the country, you can spend more on building because you don't have to spend as much money on the land. Like, you find these incredibly big houses and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're willing to move away from society
and live in Tombstone, Arizona,
you could probably build quite big.
Yeah. They haven't, but you could. Look.
Good old Tombstone, Arizona.
Well, Ollie, that concludes our Tombstone trilogy here on Secondhand Haunting. I don't know where we're going to be looking at next fortnight, and I don't know who we're going to be looking at it with, because maybe we got some more guests coming up.
Oh, like, more the merrier, I always say.
Yeah. So
share the love. The love of the ghost.
For the love of the ghost?
The love of the ghost stories found by your mum.
Yeah, she's given me another 2, I think. Her and her friends, all these retirees going out scouring the world for books for me. I think I might need to start paying a commission. But what that does mean is I've got plenty of books to keep going for many more episodes of
Second-Hand Haunting.